Welcome back to the deep dive. If you caught our last discussion, you'll know we started scratching the surface, really, of how agentic AI might just fundamentally change how organizations operate.
That's right. And today, we're building directly on that. We're diving deep into the second part of a presentation that gives a really vivid picture of this potential revolution. It uses a hotel, the Grand Serenity Hotel, as its main example, which I think makes it super tangible.
Exactly. And our mission for this deep dive is to unpack that potential, specifically how this agentic AI can free up your most valuable people, your staff, letting them focus on the important stuff. While this sort of always-on team of AI agents handles the necessary low-level grind.
And it's not just admin. It's also about providing deep insights, constant monitoring, predictive analysis, making sure those key business metrics are, well, heading up and to the right.
Yeah, precisely. We want to pull out the key findings from this presentation and give you, listening, some solid ideas. Ideas for your own organizations, really, whatever field you're in.
It really shifts the conversation from like theoretical possibilities to concrete examples, shows you what it actually looks like day to day and the impact, on operations and the bottom line.
Okay, so let's unpack the first big point the presentation makes. It really starts with the people, the human element, emphasizing that businesses need to empower their staff. They use these great metaphors like treating them as superheroes, giving them wings, a cape, launching them into orbit almost.
Uh-huh. But what's the thing that keeps pulling these superheroes back down?
Interruptions.
Exactly. The presentation calls them venom or kryptonite. It's that constant stream of small, frequent tasks, the questions, the admin hurdles,
Yeah.
all the stuff that pulls people away from the core work they were actually hired to do. The creative, strategic, human stuff that adds the real value.
And this is where agentic AI steps in, according to the presentation and the examples we'll get into. Its main job, to lift that burden, take away those frustrating low-level tasks.
Right. So people can finally dedicate their energy, their skills, to the important, higher-level work that, frankly, only they can do.
The presentation actually brings in a manager's viewpoint here, too.
Yeah, they mentioned that if there's one thing managers hear over and over from their teams, it's, I just need more time. And using AI, even the free tools out there, is framed as this often overlooked chance to give staff back that precious commodity, time. It's about enabling the team you already have.
So the main driver isn't necessarily, cutting jobs straight away, though efficiencies might come later. It's about empowering your current people to be way more effective.
Okay, let's zoom out. Let's take that 10,000-foot view. The presentation talks about how these AI agents can work across a whole company.
So using the Grand Serenity Hotel example, it lists several key areas where these agents really earn their crust, as they put it.
Like what?
We see agents designed for check-in, guest service, property care, that's basically maintenance, marketing, finance,
Sure.
HR, which they interestingly call the people team, and food and beverage, or F&B. And it's really crucial. The material stresses this. These agents aren't replacing people. They're meant to work with the human teams. The whole idea is making those teams stronger, better informed, better able to just, well, nail their jobs.
Which touches on a classic problem for managers, right? Especially in complex operations. How do you actually know what's going on everywhere all the time?
Yeah.
If you're running operations, you just can't be in multiple places at once. You've got your meetings, your reports, sure, but getting a real-time pulse, very tricky.
And this is where it gets really interesting, potentially powerful. The presentation suggests agentic AI overcomes this because the agents can be everywhere, virtually speaking. How?
It's all about liberating data. Information that was stuck in silos. The property management system over here, the marketing database there, inventory software, HR records, trapped. These AI agents are designed to pull it all together, set it free.
The data liberation idea.
Yeah, they use this great analogy like taking the canary out of the coal mine and showing it the rainbow. That connected, accessible data, that's the fuel for the engine.
And one really practical outcome of this data freedom, is enabling natural language queries across the whole business, like an internal chatbot, essentially.
Exactly. So an operations manager could just ask specific questions about any department, get real-time insights without having to call someone, interrupt them, wait for a report to be run.
So instead of bugging the maintenance manager or the HR person,
You can just ask, what's the status in maintenance today? Or even something specific like, how's John getting on with his compliance training modules? Getting that kind of detailed, real-time info without the usual friction. That's a big deal.
okay, let's drill down. The presentation gives some specific examples that really show this agent stuff and the data liberation in action. They mention a diagram, maybe a bit complicated to look at.
The ugly mermaid diagram, yeah. Visuals help, though. It shows how different agents connect across the customer journey, booking, arrival, stay, departure, and internal stuff, too. It really paints a picture of a connected system, not just isolated bots.
Right, seamless operation potential. Let's take the first deep dive example. The
Yeah.
check-in agent. What's this one doing?
Okay, so it pulls in the guest bookings, right? And their estimated arrival times. But the output is way richer than just a list. It gives you details on specific guests, like VIP Alice Johnson, room 305, arriving 2 p.m. And crucially, her requests. Quiet room, high floor, extra pillows, late checkout.
Wow, okay.
And it notes another guest, Carol, wants a balcony with a city view.
So it's not just pulling data, it's processing these preferences and needs. And the presentation says this agent then does what? Creates tasks.
Exactly. It generates actionable prep tasks for housekeeping based on those specific needs. And it can even handle communicating with the guest via the hotel app, WhatsApp, SMS, whatever channel works.
That sounds efficient. What about errors?
Ah, good point. They mention a critical piece called the supervisor model. Think of it like the AI does its homework, and then a human supervisor quickly glances over it, checks it.
Like marking homework, yeah.
Precisely. It builds confidence in what the AI is doing, provides oversight before actions are taken or stuff gets saved permanently into the CRM or whatever. They even mention tools like Gemini 2.5 Flash Preview could be used for parts of this. Shows it's potentially testable without huge cost.
So that accessibility point is key. You don't necessarily need a massive budget just to explore these ideas. Okay, moving on. Another fascinating area. The marketing engine. This one also sounds like it relies heavily on human input.
Oh, absolutely. Its job is to analyze guest data and whip up personalized marketing offers. The presentation shows an example output. It lists guests and recommends specific offers tailored right to them, based on loyalty tier, past spend, interests, even like upcoming anniversaries.
Give us an example from the material.
Sure. So for Alice Johnson, she's silver tier, interested in spelletry, got an anniversary coming up.
Yeah.
The agent suggests an exclusive wellness retreat anniversary serenity package. For another guest, Maria Garcia, described as active, it suggests 20% off a local adventure tour. And for David Kim, who's platinum tier, high spender, the first suggestion is a 10% discount.
Okay, that level of personalization, that feels like something that used to need a very senior, very expensive marketing person just crunching data all day.
That's exactly the point the presentation makes. It says this kind of data-driven personalized marketing was either impossible before or needed resources totally out of reach for smaller places, like their example of a little 15-room hotel. No way could they afford a dedicated director just for this.
Right.
But the real magic here is the human feedback loop. The AI generates the offers, but the human marketing team reviews them. The example output even has a note like, "Marketing team, please let me know your feedback on this batch."
And that feedback isn't just checking for mistakes, is it? It makes the AI smarter.
Spot on. It's fundamental to the self-learning. If the team looks at that 10% offer for David Kim, the platinum high spender, and thinks, nah, 10% won't cut it, this guy needs 25% to feel valued, maybe nudge him towards diamond tier, that human insight directly trains the AI for next time.
So the system gets better and better through collaboration. That's a powerful blend of AI augmentation and human smarts.
It's definitely not about replacement there.
Okay, third deep dive. F&B management, food and beverage, notoriously tricky tight margins. What can an AI agent do here?
So this agent pulls data from the hotel's F&B tools, inventory, point of sale, etc. The output actually categorizes ingredients based on profitability and popularity or rating, almost like a portfolio analysis, but for food items.
Like what?
It flags plow horses, high profit, high rating things like chicken breast, salmon fillet, organic tomatoes, and it identifies the dog's low profit, low rating items you might want to avoid or rethink, like fresh cream or maybe a specific fresh herb mix that's not selling.
So really granular insights into what's working and what's not. What about cost control? Always massive in F&B.
Yep, it dives into that. Provides detailed cost control analysis by pulling in supplier pricing data. And it can even suggest specific actions like flagging one supplier Metro Wholesale in the example and recommending negotiating prices with them.
And the potential payoff. Any numbers?
The presentation suggests this could potentially lead to a 2–3% reduction in overall food cost, which is significant in F&B. They use an analogy saying the AI brings the analytical firepower of, like a team of experts with 15 years experience and cost control to sift through your data. Stuff a busy chef might just not have the time or, the specific financial background to dig into.
That's a really concrete financial impact and the summary output.
Yeah, it gives key metrics derived by the agent. Things like total inventory value, 18,000 pounds in the example, the average profit margin across everything, 65.2%, and it flags the top 3 high-waste items.
It just distills all that complex data into clear, actionable points for the F&B team. Makes sense.
Exactly. Stuff they can use to make better decisions, fast.
We've seen some incredibly powerful examples here across different parts of the hotel. Now, for the business leaders listening, the big question is always, how do you actually start something like this? What does the presentation say about the tech, the accessibility?
It touches briefly on the tech side, mentions Python scripts, function calls, working with data sets, using models. But the main takeaway seems to be flexibility. The agent outputs aren't just static reports. They can feed into dashboards, custom apps, or even trigger other automated actions. It's this idea that all outputs potentially are inputs for the next step or another agent.
Okay, but doesn't need a huge IT department and, deep technical skills.
Well, the presentation actually pushes back hard on that idea, makes a strong case for accessibility. It notes the code base for these examples is available through a newsletter or medium they mention. And importantly, the AI Ops Hub they demonstrate. You can test it for free with your own data.
Okay, that's interesting.
And it talks about decentralized AI being viable, running your own language model on-site, trained specifically on your business's data.
Your own model. Sounds expensive.
That's the surprising bit. The presentation argues the cost barrier is lower than you might think. They give the example of running a local model on pretty affordable hardware, like an Apple Mac with Apple Silicon chips, estimating the hardware cost around £1,500, maybe a bit more now.
1,500 quid to run your own fine-tuned AI model.
Yeah. The point is, you can potentially fine-tune an open-source local model on your specific database without needing, massive data center.
That really does lower the barrier, especially for smaller companies.
And the material agrees. It even suggests it can be easier for smaller businesses, less data complexity, maybe just starting with one database. Getting that core data clean and organized is the vital first step anyway. Maybe building a basic digital twin of your operations, regardless of size.
Right. So pulling all this together from the presentation, the hotel examples, the tech accessibility, the focus on empowering people, what are the headline benefits? The big picture gains from adopting this agentic AI approach.
The material hammers home several key advantages. Big efficiency gains potentially up to 70%. Cost reduction is pegged at up to 30%, mostly through optimizing resources, like AI agents flagging quiet periods so you adjust staffing proactively.
And the impact on the customer or guest experience.
Huge, absolutely significant boost there. It enables really proactive service. By understanding guest data so deeply, the AI helps you, as they say, know the guests better than they know themselves, leading to those personalized touches that really impress.
Plus, you get that always-on capability, round-the-clock monitoring and support that humans just can't provide alone.
Exactly. It frees up your people from the drudgery, the repetitive stuff, and it unlocks completely new opportunities, the kind of deep analysis, strategic insight, and hyper-personalization that were just too expensive or time-consuming before.
This deep dive into the Grand Serenity Hotel example really has shown the tangible power of agentic AI. It goes way beyond theory. From freeing up staff time, driving specific savings in F&B, boosting guest satisfaction, it makes a very compelling case that this isn't just some future fantasy. It's happening now.
Yeah, it clearly shows how this tech can weave through different functions, constantly monitoring, providing those predictive insights, making sure the key metrics are going the right way, all fueled by making data accessible, liberating it.
So here's a final thought for you, our listener, to chew on, building on everything we've discussed today. If agentic AI can deliver this level of detail, personalization, and efficiency in a complex place like a hotel, what specific, maybe frustrating, low-level task in your business? Or what critical process that needs constant watching? What could be the perfect starting point for your first AI agent?